everybody, it's Shelby from Staying Books, and today I thought I would record the new to BookTube tag that was originally created by Between Chapters, and I will link her original video and BookTube channel down below for anyone who wants to check her out. But I figured since I have just created my channel, I've had it up for a couple weeks now, it does look like something I'm going to keep plugging away at. This might be a fun way to start things off, and I've never done a tag before, so figured this was a good one to start with. Without further ado, question number 1. Where are you joining us from? I'm in Los Angeles, California, in the big bad city, which is weird because I grew up in the middle of nowhere, an hour from a stoplight. Question number 2, how old are you? Oh God, I hate this question. In this city, it's the worst question you can ask someone. I mean, the answer is always over 18, or once you hit 25, over 25, because after you're 25, you can do a beer commercial. Yeah, it's one of those questions you just don't answer in Los Angeles very often. Question number 3, why did you join BookTube? So I joined BookTube as my production company was talking one day about different things we could do to expand our skills. I wanted to get some more editing abilities. I have never really played around with editing, and I wanted to try it out, play with the different programs, see what was easier for me, what I liked, because we want to start doing a bunch of original content, and since we don't have an editor in-house, rather than having to pay someone, it was, well, let's try and play with it and figure it out ourselves. So I was thinking about it and bouncing ideas off my best friend, and we started talking about, well, there's got to be like a YouTube channel for people who read books. I mean, you're obsessed with reading, and me, and you're so active on Goodreads, but I would imagine that there's something on YouTube, and at the time I had no awareness of BookTube. I never watched a video or anything, and we looked into it, checked it out, and was like, oh, that's a perfect way to be doing something and get to practice editing. Question number 4, what is the meaning behind? So I've never been somebody that had a lot of nicknames growing up, and I started working in one of the restaurants here in Los Angeles a few years ago, and one of my friends decided that he needed a nickname for me and wanted to start calling me something. And Shelby is very well known in the car community for a line of Ford Mustangs, the Shelby Mustang. I'm a diehard fan of the 67 GT500 because, oh my God, it is a beautiful car. But my friend Phil decided that he needed something to call me as a nickname and didn't like Mustang, so he shortened it to Stang. He is the only person in my entire life who's ever called me that, but he called me Stang at work and everything, and I started using it on online for different sign-ins and things, and then as my book reviewing started to grow on Goodreads, I wanted to break out an email address for just specifically book-oriented stuff so that I could not have it lost in amongst my acting email and my regular email and my company's email. And I decided that I would utilize that nickname, and it became Staying Books as my email. And so when I set up this channel, it was really easy to just stay with Staying Books because I already have an internet presence under that. Question number 5, what type of books do you read or want to talk about here? Okay, so I will read pretty much anything. I grew up reading a lot of fantasy sci-fi, and that moved into reading romance, but I've never, disregarded a book because of the type of book it is. If somebody recommended something to me and it was interesting, I would read it, whether it's nonfiction, general fiction, romance, whatever, but my main focus has always been romance of any sort and variety. Lately, that's been a lot of MM romance. I've read very heavily in that genre over the last couple of years. I want to keep that kind of open reading pattern with everything that I review on this channel. I'm not going to specialize in any one thing, or I'll read YA, I'll read horror, I'll read nonfiction, and anything in between. So I figured I would keep that broad perspective with my channel as well, because I read a lot, I read heavily, and it's more fun that way. I like the variety. Question number 6, who are some of your favorite authors? Oh wow, this is really genre specific for me. Growing up, I loved Anne McCaffrey and Terry Brooks. I love J.R. Ward. I love Larissa Ione. If I pronounced her name right, I probably didn't. I love Gina Showalter, and I'm kind of going genres in my head, so it's like fantasy sci-fi from my early childhood that I adored, and then like paranormals, and like my authors. I love Heidi Cullinan, I love Abigail Rue, I love Jordan L. Hawk, Bryce Ford, KJ Charles, the list goes on and on. I have so many authors that I just absolutely love. Oh, Anne Bishop. How can I forget Anne Bishop? I absolutely adore her writing. She's written some of my most favorite series ever. She's phenomenal. So I have so many. I love to read. Question number 7. What is the last book you read? I finished Hexbreaker by Jordan L. Hawk last night. It's a paranormal romance in a new series by her, and I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. Really, really good book. Question number 8, what are you currently reading? So I have not actually started my book for today. I will start it here shortly. It's another romance by Suki Fleet. It's called The Glass House. So I should start that here after football today, because as much of a nerd and a dork I am completely 100%, I'm also a sports fanatic. So I give myself my 3 hours on Sunday to completely sports nut it out with my Seahawks every week. Question number 9, what do you use for bookmarks? So since I switched over to reading more ebooks than physical books lately, I don't use a bookmark as often anymore, but I definitely like having one when I'm reading a physical book, and most recently I was using, you can read it here, it says, "Wisdom begins in wonder." It's a quote from Socrates, which I really love because I am a classical scholar. I majored in Latin and Greek in college, and I absolutely love Socrates. I just think his writing is really fantastic. So I threw this one in my book the last time I was reading a physical book, which actually was the other day. And I have a couple other ones that float around. I'm not really particular. I will kind of use anything. I will grab a bookmark and just throw it in the book. But I have found that recently I do like, when I'm reading a physical book, to have that bookmark, and I'll mark out like the next chapter. I read a book in one sitting. It's very rare for me not to read a book in one sitting. So I use the bookmark to pace myself into where my next chapter break is. So if I want to get up and get food, or I want to go use the restroom or anything, I can't stop in the middle of a chapter. Show us your current TBR pile. This is really difficult. My TBR is just online, because my TBR, I have like multiple layers to my TBR. And then I have my current challenges to read, which I try and stick to every month, picking books, as many books off that list as possible, and using them to feed into other challenges. And then from that, I do a monthly TBR that is the books I'd like to get to in a month, but even that is fluid because I do so many challenges. There are books that like I will need for that week that don't fit any other challenge out there that I already have planned, and so I'm adding books constantly. And because I do read mostly ebooks at this point, I don't have like a TBR shelf. I have a pile of books in my room under my like side table that are all books I haven't read that I picked up at bookstores, used bookstores over the last couple years, or ordered online or whatever. And when I haven't read them, they just kind of get shoved in there, but it's not really my TBR pile because most of them aren't anything I intend to read right now because they haven't been picked for a challenge. I really am a challenge-oriented reader, so my TBR is very fluid based on whatever challenges I'm doing that month. Question 11. Do you prefer hardback or paperback books? Do you prefer ebooks or physical books? And do you prefer to purchase or borrow books? So as far as hardback or paperback, I am not really particular. I like the way a hardback looks on the shelf, but they are cost prohibitive, and I don't purchase a lot of them. If I'm buying paperback, and I'm fine with the way I either kind of feel when I read. There's some nice things about being able to lay down a hardback that paperback you can't, but there's still something about holding a paperback that that's what I grew up reading. That was always what I read. There's something very nostalgic about it for me, and I do enjoy holding that paperback. Plus, paperback's a lot easier to carry with me, and I always have a book with me, so if I'm reading a book, it's going to come with me, and that paperback fits in my bag a whole heck of a lot better than the hardback. But I do like the aesthetic of the hardback. So ebooks or physical books? This really came down to convenience for me. I have probably over 1,000 physical books in my house, and there are still certain authors that I will always make sure and buy their physical book because I have the collection already. But I made the switch to ebooks a few years back because I live in a small one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles, and you run out of space really quickly in a space like that, and I was already out of bookshelf space. I have piles of books on the floor because I don't have enough bookshelves for them as it is. And it was also becoming cost prohibitive. And I started seeing that ebooks, especially the type of ebooks I was reading at the time, a lot of MM romance, are cheaper digitally, and I can carry 200,000 books on my Kindle with me wherever I go, and I don't have to take anything but my phone. So if I'm sitting in an audition, or I'm sitting waiting for a meeting to start, I can pull my phone out and read my book. I also travel with my family isn't in LA, so anytime I went home, I used to take like 10 books home with me, and my suitcase would weigh 2 tons, so the Kindle became a lot more convenient. In general, I would have to say I prefer ebooks at this point. Do you prefer to purchase or borrow books? That one's easy. I purchase. I can't tell you the last time I borrowed a book. I am a horrible human being. I want to own it. I want to own it because I want to reread it, and even if I hate it, I still want to own it. I buy books constantly. It's ridiculous how many books I buy. And the thing is, like, with my TBR pile, I pretty much buy the book when I'm about to start reading it. There will be, like, certain, like, flash sales and stuff where I'll stack up on a number of books, but generally, I purchase as I go. If I want to read it, I go and buy it. Ebooks are instantaneous. It's on my Kindle, and I can start right away, so that's partially part of it. But I have recently been kind of thinking about trying to go back to the library. The library is like a block from my house. I can walk there. And it would be nice on books that are, you know, not something I necessarily know about or going searching. There could be something fun for that. But because I'm such a challenge reader, it's hard to kind of binge the library and pick something random because it's not going to necessarily fit in with the challenges that I have planned, and I have lots of challenges planned, so anything outside of the challenges becomes difficult. Question number 12. What book or series got you into reading? So I was the firstborn in my family, and my mom is a huge reader, so really my mom got me into reading. It was always something that we shared, and still do to this day. Like, we talk books, and she's given me so many great recommendations over the years. And as a kid, I remember she used to read to us constantly, and it was always something different. And by, like, 3rd grade, I was bored with kids' books. Like, anything young adult, whatever, I was bored with it. And so my mom gave me a book to read, and she's like, try this, I think you'll like it. And what she had given me was Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Song, which is a book in her Dragon Riders of Parn series, but it's one of a short, essentially. It's only like 180 pages, maybe. Like, it's very short for a sci-fi fantasy novel. So she hands me this book, and she wants me to try reading it, and I was all gung-ho for it, and then I started it. Keep in mind, I am like 6-7 years old. I don't know. I was super, super young. The first chapter of that book is all the star of Rubik in the 24th quadrant of space in the time of blah, blah. It's just super scientific because while Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Parn series is very fantasy heavy, it comes from a sci-fi base and is actually really more of a science fiction novel than a fantasy novel. I'm reading this first chapter and it's way over my head. I mean, so detailed scientifically. And I was like, Mom, how you can't read this? It makes no sense. So she sat down with me, not remembering what the first chapter was, read the first page and went, oh, okay. And actually read the first chapter to me to get me into the story. And once the story took off, I was sucked in and I devoured that book and the next 2 books in the series and just powered through and started reading all sorts of Anne McCaffrey and kept asking my mom for book recommendations. And I was reading Terry Brooks's Sword of Shannara series when I was in 4th grade. I mean, it was absurd. I was reading 1,000-page science fiction and fantasy novels because that's what I did. I just really loved those books, and they gave me more story than reading what I grew up reading of, like Nancy Drew, Boxcar Children, and The Black Stallion, those sorts of books. I enjoyed them, and I still read some of them here and there, but at that point, by 3rd grade, I was fully into adult fiction. And that's probably the most influential series to me growing up, what got me into reading, Anne McCaffrey, Dragon Rider's Return. I will read that series anytime. I love it. It's one of my favorite all-time series. Question number 13, how did you discover BookTube? I kind of already answered this. It was not something that I was aware of, and then I wanted to start editing and came into the idea to do a BookTube channel, and I started watching the videos online. It was just kind of random, and it wasn't something that I had gotten to through books, which is weird. I came to it through my film connections. Question number 14, what challenges do you think you'll face with your own BookTube channel? Well, honestly, my schedule is freaking super sporadic and messed up, and I do a lot of independent contracting, and I work in restaurants periodically, and just whatever it takes to kind of pay the bills while my company is developing all of our projects. So staying consistent with the schedule is going to be the hardest thing. I have been really good these first couple weeks and made sure and uploaded something every week. I'd like to get into the point where I have like a set schedule, but right now I'm not holding myself to that. I'm just holding myself to make sure you record something every week and you put something up, because my schedule changes so often. It's really hard to say I'll have this time available. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm most worried about as being like the hardest thing for me with this. I found I really enjoyed the editing. That was not something I expected. I expected it to bore. I expected the editing to be the thing that I hated most and bored the heck out of me. Because in my head, there was too much of like watching the same clip over and over again to try and make it perfect. And I thought that would bore me, and for some reason it really doesn't. It's probably my OCD. But I'm really enjoying it, so there you go. Question number 15, where else can we find you? Link up. So I will link down below. I do have a Twitter, blog, Goodreads, and I just started an Instagram account. I will link that as well down below, so check out the links, add me if you like, spend some time talking with y'all. Please link, add, subscribe, click the buttons down there and do all of the fun stuff. Comments, leave me lots of fun things to say, and I will check it out. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Bye!